Hello, welcome to Stratfor. I'm Mark Schroeder, Vice President for Africa Operations. I'm joined today by my colleague Stephen Rakowski, an Africa analyst at Stratfor. Today we're here to talk with you about Nigeria. Stephen.
We've just come up on the one-year anniversary of President Buhari being in office. This anniversary comes at a time of increasing difficulties across the spectrum in Nigeria, economic difficulties, security difficulties, and I know you were recently on a visit to Nigeria. Could you please give us some of your insight that you gained during your time there?
Absolutely. Great question, Stephen. So for sure, President Buhari just celebrated his first year in office, and he's made some notable gains against campaign pledges. The country has also found itself, as you alluded to, facing some very significant challenges on the economic front, on the security front, and even politically. And so let's address these. So economically, the country is facing an economy in decline, rising unemployment, rising inflation, and
what are the factors that are driving this? We obviously have the persistent low energy prices since January 2014. Nigeria is heavily dependent on this. I was wondering if we could talk a little more about that.
Correct. So there are external economic factors that shape consequences to the Nigerian economy and policy choices that the Nigerian government can make. Internally, though, there are also very powerful factors. Specifically, we can talk to the resumption of militancy in the oil-producing Niger Delta region and militant groups such as the Niger Delta Avengers.
Sure. We've heard a lot about the Niger Delta Avengers in recent months. In our assessment, it's difficult to know exactly who these militants are, but there are extenuating circumstances, not just in Niger Delta. What are some of those that are the broader picture in Nigerian politics?
Sure. So in terms of the Niger Delta Avengers, it's very clear that their identity is closely held, and the patrons and members of the group deliberately have not disclosed their identity.
Right.
So you cannot point to who the leadership is. Unlike previous militant groups in the Niger Delta, such as the Movement for Emancipation of the Niger Delta, MEND, or the Niger Delta People's Volunteer Force. In the case of the Avengers, I think what we have to look for is the political objective that this group and their political enablers have from the Niger Delta.
Right. And so these political enablers, are they at the local level or are they at the broader level?
It's both. In the Niger Delta, there's a deeply held belief that since last year's political transition from former President Goodluck Jonathan to Muhammadu Buhari, the region has seen not merely a decline in its political and economic leverage, but in fact has been persecuted for gains and political space that it did have under the previous administration.
And this fits into a context of long-standing grievances in the region, right?
Long-standing grievances in the sense that the oil-producing Niger Delta region generates the lion's share of Nigeria's economic wealth. However, the region benefits very little from the wealth that is generated from it. This is the grievance in the Niger Delta.
And so previously, we've seen an amnesty program for former militants in order to essentially subsidize or to incentivize them to restrict their activities. And I believe the options were to go to school, to learn a trade, other potential ways in order to keep them from taking up arms again. What have we seen regarding this amnesty program that might play a role in the current trend of rising militancy?
The amnesty program was a very helpful program initiated by former President Umaru Yar'Adua in 2009. And as you point out, it was used constructively to manage militants and enable militants with other socioeconomic activities and disincentivize them from pursuing militancy. What has been seen, however, in the Niger Delta since President Buhari came to office is a consistent defunding of economic programs aimed to develop the region. So in the case of the amnesty program, what has been seen is funding for the program's been cut by 2/3.
Right.
And other forms of socioeconomic assistance to the region have also been cut.
Right.
And these are interpreted in the oil-producing region as hostile acts.
Mark, what are some of the imperatives that President Buhari has during his first year in office?
The imperatives of President Buhari has been to rebalance the national calculation and how resources are shared in that country. And President Buhari elected on a platform that included constituents from his northern ethnic base and from other parts of the country, had to recalculate how patronage was apportioned to the country. Now, of course, this meant fewer resources for other regions of the country, and as a result, other regions feel neglected, feel disenfranchised, indeed persecuted. And this has been an exceedingly challenging transition for Nigeria to rebalance that national polity from Goodluck Jonathan to Muhammadu Buhari.
Well, thank you for your insights, Mark. We'll be following Nigeria closely in the months ahead. For more on subjects like this, please visit stratfor.com.